Hi everyone. Welcome to English Story School, where learning English becomes an adventure, and every story takes you closer to fluency. What would you do if your dream seemed too big, too wild, and utterly impossible? Would you let fear win, or would you persist, even when everyone else told you to quit? Imagine standing on the brink of failure, yet believing so deeply in your vision that you refuse to give up. This is the story of Howard Schultz, a man who transformed a modest coffee shop into the global phenomenon we know as Starbucks. But let's get one thing clear. This isn't a story about coffee. It's about resilience, audacity, and the relentless power of persistence. Buckle up, because by the end of this journey, you won't just be inspired. You'll be ready to rewrite your own story of success. Chapter 2. The Beginning. Humble Origins. Howard Schultz's story begins in the unpolished heart of Brooklyn's housing projects, a place where dreams often faded beneath the weight of reality. This wasn't the Brooklyn of hip cafes and bustling creativity. It was a harsh world where poverty and struggle were constant companions. Howard grew up in a cramped apartment, sharing space with his siblings and witnessing his parents' battles with financial instability. His father, Fred Schultz, worked as a truck driver, a job that came with grueling hours but little reward. It offered no stability, no benefits, and no safety net when things went wrong. Howard vividly recalls the day his father broke his hip on the job. There was no compensation, no support from the employer. It was a harsh awakening for young Howard, a moment that seared itself into his memory. He watched his father return home, not just in physical pain, but emotionally crushed, carrying the weight of a system that offered no second chances. This image of defeat became a turning point for Howard, planting within him a determination to create a better life. He vowed that he would rise above these circumstances, not just for himself, but for anyone who ever felt trapped by their environment. But Howard's circumstances didn't change overnight. His family couldn't afford luxuries, let alone opportunities. In this environment, dreams seemed like a distant luxury, yet Howard held on to a relentless drive to break free. He found his escape in sports, discovering football in high school. The game became more than just a pastime. It was a lifeline. Howard poured himself into the sport, pushing his physical and mental limits, driven by the belief that it could offer him a way out. Football earned him a scholarship to Northern Michigan University, a rare opportunity that promised a glimpse of a better future. But even with a scholarship, life was anything but easy. Howard's family couldn't support him financially, so he did what he had always done. He worked tirelessly. From bartending to selling blood plasma, Howard did whatever it took to cover his expenses. The days were long, and the nights were often longer, but he had learned a vital lesson early in life. Success wasn't about being handed opportunities. It was about fighting for them. These years weren't just about survival. They were about shaping the man Howard would become. Every odd job, every sleepless night, every moment of self-doubt built a resilience that would define his future. While others might have seen these struggles as obstacles, Howard saw them as stepping stones. He didn't resent the hard work, he embraced it. He understood that his path would never be easy, but he was willing to endure it because he believed something greater awaited him. When Howard graduated, he took a job at Xerox selling office equipment. For most, this would have been a dream come true, a respectable corporate job with a steady paycheck. But Howard wasn't like most people. He excelled at Xerox, quickly rising through the ranks, but something inside him felt restless. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant for more. The corporate ladder wasn't enough for him. He didn't just want to climb it. He wanted to build one of his own. But what? That question gnawed at him. What could he create that would make a lasting impact? Howard wasn't yet sure of the answer, but he knew he couldn't settle for mediocrity. He had seen what life looked like when people accepted less than they deserved. He had lived it, and he had promised himself he wouldn't allow his story to end that way. Then in 1981, a seemingly mundane event would change the course of his life forever. Howard was working as an executive for a Swedish kitchenware company when he noticed a small but intriguing client in Seattle, a coffee shop named Starbucks. At the time, Starbucks was nothing more than a local business that sold coffee beans and equipment. It had no cafes, no lattes, no global reputation. But something about the brand intrigued Howard. He decided to visit the store, and as he walked through its doors, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: inspiration. That visit ignited a spark in Howard, one that would soon grow into a blazing fire of ambition. Starbucks wasn't just a coffee shop to him, it was a blank canvas. And in his mind, he could already see the masterpiece it could become. The young boy from Brooklyn's housing projects, who had worked his way out of poverty with nothing but grit and determination, now stood at the threshold of a new chapter. The foundation had been laid, brick by brick, through years of struggle and perseverance. What came next would be a story not just of coffee, but of revolutionizing an industry and redefining what it meant to create meaningful connections. As Howard prepared to step into this next chapter, he didn't yet know the challenges that lay ahead. But one thing was certain: he had never let circumstances define him, and he wasn't about to start now. This moment marked the beginning of a journey that would not only change Howard's life, but inspire millions around the globe. The boy from Brooklyn was ready to dream bigger than ever before. And this time, he wasn't just dreaming for himself. He was dreaming for the world. Chapter 3. The Turning Point: Discovering Starbucks. In 1981, a chance encounter altered the trajectory of Howard Schultz's life forever. He was working as an executive for a Swedish kitchenware company when he came across an unusual client, a small coffee shop in Seattle called Starbucks. Intrigued, Howard decided to pay the store a visit. As he stepped inside, he was enveloped by the rich aroma of freshly roasted coffee. The walls were lined with coffee beans and brewing equipment, and the store exuded an almost magnetic charm. At the time, Starbucks wasn't a cafe as we know it today. It sold coffee beans, grinders, and accessories to a niche clientele of coffee enthusiasts. But for Howard, this wasn't just another coffee shop. It was an idea waiting to be unleashed. What struck Howard most wasn't the products but the potential. Starbucks had something unique, something intangible, yet profoundly compelling. It wasn't just about coffee. It was about the atmosphere, the sensory experience, and the feeling of stepping into a place where quality mattered. Howard felt an inexplicable pull, as if he were standing at the intersection of purpose and possibility. Little did he know, this small shop would become the foundation for his life's work. Howard couldn't shake the feeling that Starbucks had untapped potential. He reached out to the founders, Jerry Baldwin and Gordon Boker, and shared his enthusiasm. They were impressed by his passion and vision, and in 1982, Howard joined Starbucks as the director of marketing. His task was straightforward: to expand the brand's reach and increase sales. But for Howard, this wasn't just a job. It was an opportunity to reimagine what coffee could mean to people. Shortly after joining, Howard took a business trip to Milan, Italy. This trip would become a defining moment in his life. As he wandered the bustling streets, he noticed something remarkable. Espresso bars were everywhere. But these weren't just places to grab a quick coffee. They were cultural hubs. People gathered in these bars to connect, unwind, and share stories. The baristas knew their customers by name, and every cup of coffee was served with care and artistry. For Italians, coffee wasn't just a drink. It was a ritual, a moment of joy in the midst of life's chaos. Howard was captivated. He began visiting as many espresso bars as he could, soaking in the atmosphere and observing the subtle ways in which these spaces fostered connection. The seed of an idea began to sprout in his mind. What if he could bring this culture of community and quality to America? What if coffee could be more than just a product? It could be an experience. When Howard returned to Seattle, he was bursting with excitement. He pitched his idea to the Starbucks founders: transform the store into a cafe where customers could enjoy high-quality coffee in a warm, inviting environment. But to his surprise, the founders rejected the idea. They believed in Starbucks as a coffee bean retailer, not as a place where people would linger over cappuccinos. "It's not our vision," they told him. For most people, this would have been a dead end. The dream would have stopped there, crushed by a lack of support. But Howard Schultz wasn't like most people. He couldn't let go of the vision that had taken root in his mind. He believed so deeply in the potential of this idea that he decided to take an extraordinary risk. He left Starbucks and set out to build his own coffee company. In 1985, Howard launched Il Giornale, named after an Italian newspaper. This was his attempt to bring the espresso bar culture he had fallen in love with to America. But the journey was anything but easy. Starting a business required capital, and Howard faced rejection after rejection from potential investors. "Coffee bars in America? That'll never work," they scoffed. Banks dismissed him, skeptical that Americans would embrace a European-style cafe. Howard didn't let the rejections deter him. He poured his personal savings into the venture and borrowed money wherever he could. He even pitched his idea to friends and family, convincing them to believe in his vision when no one else would. Every dollar he raised was a step closer to making his dream a reality. But the pressure was immense. Howard was risking everything, not just financially, but emotionally. Failure would mean not only the end of his dream, but also the betrayal of everyone who had believed in him. Il Giornale opened its doors in Seattle in 1986, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. People were drawn to the experience Howard had created, a space where they could savor expertly crafted coffee, relax, and feel a sense of community. Howard's belief in his vision had been vindicated. But this was only the beginning. In 1987, Starbucks founders decided to sell the company. Howard saw this as his chance to bring his vision full circle. He scraped together $3.8 million from investors, many of whom had initially rejected him, and purchased Starbucks. For Howard, this wasn't just a business transaction. It was the culmination of years of persistence, passion, and unwavering belief in what Starbucks could become. Howard Schultz didn't just acquire a company. He inherited a legacy and an opportunity to redefine an industry. The boy from Brooklyn who had grown up watching his father struggle had now taken the reins of a company with limitless potential. But Howard wasn't interested in building a coffee empire for the sake of profit. He wanted to create something meaningful, something that would bring people together and inspire them. This was the turning point, not just for Howard Schultz, but for Starbucks itself. It marked the beginning of a revolution, one that would transform coffee from a commodity into a cherished ritual. And as we'll see, the journey ahead would be just as challenging as the path that had brought Howard to this moment. Chapter 4. The Rise, the Starbucks Revolution. Persistence has a way of bending the odds, and in Howard Schultz's case, it didn't just bend them, it shattered them. By 1987, Howard had turned skeptics into believers and seized his ultimate opportunity. He bought Starbucks for $3.8 million. It wasn't just a purchase. It was the culmination of years of resilience, hard work, and unshakable belief. With Starbucks now under his leadership, Howard merged it with his own brand, Il Giornale, and set out to transform the company into something far greater than a coffee retailer. For Howard, Starbucks wasn't just about selling coffee. It was about redefining how people experienced it. But Howard knew that revolutionizing an industry wasn't going to be easy. Starbucks was still a small, regional company when he took over, with fewer than 20 stores. The concept of a third place, a space between work and home where people could connect, relax, and recharge, was almost unheard of in America. For most, coffee was just a quick morning fix, not an experience. But Howard had a vision to change that. He didn't just want customers to buy coffee. He wanted them to feel something when they walked into a Starbucks store. He wanted them to feel at home. From the very beginning, Howard emphasized quality, consistency, and atmosphere. He ensured that every cup of coffee met the highest standards, sourcing beans ethically and roasting them to perfection. But he also focused on something deeper, creating an environment that invited people to linger. The wooden furniture, the ambient music, the smell of fresh coffee. All of it was designed to make Starbucks a place people wanted to be. It wasn't just about the coffee. It was about the experience, the connection, the escape from the daily grind. As Starbucks began to grow, Howard faced the challenge of scaling without losing the magic that made the brand special. He was adamant that every store, no matter how many opened, should feel personal and unique. His leadership team traveled the world, learning from different cultures and incorporating those insights into the Starbucks experience. From the launch of the first latte to the introduction of seasonal drinks like the pumpkin spice latte, Starbucks wasn't just selling products, it was creating moments. By the mid-1990s, Starbucks had become a household name. The company expanded rapidly, opening stores across the United States and eventually around the globe. Each new store brought Howard closer to his dream of creating a third place for people everywhere. Yet, with rapid growth came immense pressure. Howard was no stranger to challenges, but the path forward was filled with hurdles. One of the greatest tests of Howard's leadership came during the 2008 financial crisis. By then, Starbucks had grown to over 16,000 stores worldwide, but the recession hit hard. Sales plummeted, customers cut back on spending, and critics began to declare Starbucks a sinking ship. Many claimed the company had expanded too quickly, losing the quality and personal touch that had once set it apart. The stock price fell, employees were laid off, and stores began closing their doors. It was one of the darkest moments in Starbucks history. But Howard Schultz wasn't one to back down from a challenge. He returned as CEO during this critical time and made a bold, unprecedented decision. On February 26, 2008, Starbucks shut down all 7,100 of its U.S. stores for a single day. The reason? To retrain every single barista on how to make the perfect espresso. To outsiders, it seemed like a risky move. Who shuts down an entire company for a day, especially during a financial crisis? But for Howard, this wasn't just about coffee. It was about sending a message to his employees, his customers, and the world. Starbucks would never compromise on quality, no matter how dire the circumstances. That single decision became a turning point. It wasn't just about the technical training. It was about reigniting the company's soul. Howard reminded his team why Starbucks existed in the first place. Not to sell coffee, but to create a sense of community and connection. Slowly but surely, Starbucks began to recover. The company didn't just survive the recession. It came out stronger, more focused, and more committed to its values. Howard's vision extended far beyond the coffee cup. He believed that Starbucks could be a force for good in the world, and he backed that belief with action. Starbucks became a pioneer in ethical sourcing, ensuring that the coffee it sold was grown sustainably and that farmers were paid fairly. The company introduced fair trade coffee long before it was a popular buzzword. But Howard's commitment didn't stop there. He believed in taking care of the people who made Starbucks what it was, its employees, whom he called partners. Starbucks was one of the first companies to offer comprehensive health benefits to part-time workers, a move that shocked the corporate world. Later, Howard introduced the Starbucks College Achievement Plan, which provided free college tuition to employees. These decisions weren't just business strategies. They were a reflection of Howard's core belief that a company's success should benefit everyone involved. Under Howard's leadership, Starbucks grew into more than a coffee company. It became a global community. From the bustling streets of New York to small towns in Asia, Starbucks became a place where people gathered, shared stories, and found moments of joy. Each cup of coffee carried with it the essence of Howard's vision: connection, quality, and humanity. By the end of Howard's tenure, Starbucks had become a symbol of persistence, innovation, and purpose. It wasn't just about the billions in revenue or the millions of customers served every day. It was about the impact Starbucks had on the world. For Howard, the rise of Starbucks was proof that when you pair an unrelenting vision with persistence, you can create something truly extraordinary. Chapter 5: The Legacy, Lessons in Persistence. Today, Starbucks is more than a coffee company. It's a cultural phenomenon. It's a place where millions gather daily, seeking more than just caffeine. They come for connection, comfort, and community. But behind this global icon lies the story of one man whose journey epitomizes the transformative power of persistence. Howard Schultz didn't just dream of success. He chased it with relentless determination. When doors closed, he knocked harder. When the world doubted him, he doubled down on his vision. And when failure stared him in the face, he rose every single time. To truly appreciate Starbucks' legacy, it's important to understand the roots of Howard's perseverance. He grew up in a world where dreams were scarce and opportunities even scarcer. Brooklyn's housing projects weren't a breeding ground for entrepreneurs. They were places where survival took precedence over ambition. Yet Howard defied the odds. His story teaches us a profound lesson. Where you start in life doesn't have to determine where you end up. Howard's journey wasn't just about building a company. It was about challenging the status quo. He envisioned a business that prioritized people over profits, and he refused to compromise on that vision. Starbucks was never just about coffee for him. It was about creating a space where people could feel seen, heard, and valued. Whether it was offering ethically sourced coffee, providing health care to part-time employees, or introducing innovative employee benefits like free college tuition, Howard believed in using business as a force for good. But let's not romanticize the path to success. It was far from easy. Howard faced rejection at every turn. Investors dismissed his ideas as impractical. Banks doubted the feasibility of coffee bars in America. Even the original Starbucks owners rejected his vision of turning the company into a cafe chain. Most people would have given up, but Howard saw rejection not as an end, but as an opportunity to refine his approach and prove his doubters wrong. He didn't let failure define him. Instead, he let it fuel him. One of the most remarkable aspects of Howard's leadership was his ability to stay true to his values, even as Starbucks grew into a global empire. In an industry driven by cost-cutting and efficiency, Howard doubled down on quality and experience. He insisted on sourcing the finest coffee beans and treating farmers fairly, even when it increased expenses. He made bold decisions, like shutting down thousands of stores during the financial crisis, to ensure that Starbucks standards remained uncompromised. These weren't just business moves. They were statements about what Starbucks stood for. Howard's commitment to connection extended beyond the coffee cup. He understood that Starbucks' success wasn't just about its products. It was about its people. He once said, "We're not in the coffee business serving people. We're in the people business serving coffee." This philosophy shaped every aspect of the company, from the way baristas were trained to the design of each store. Starbucks became a third place for millions, a refuge between work and home where people could feel a sense of belonging. But Howard's vision didn't stop with Starbucks. Over the years, he became a vocal advocate for social issues, using his platform to champion causes like racial equality, veterans' rights, and education reform. He believed that businesses had a responsibility to contribute to the communities they served. Under his leadership, Starbucks became a pioneer in corporate social responsibility, setting a standard for other companies to follow. As we reflect on Howard Schultz's legacy, it's clear that his story isn't just about building a business. It's about building a better world. He proved that persistence isn't just about achieving personal success. It's about creating something that benefits others. He showed that leadership isn't about power. It's about service. And he reminded us that the greatest achievements come not from avoiding failure, but from learning to rise above it. So, what can we learn from Howard's journey? First, that dreams don't have to be dictated by circumstance. Howard started with nothing, no wealth, no connections, and no guarantees of success. But he dared to dream big, and he backed those dreams with action. Second, that rejection is not a dead end. Every no Howard heard became a stepping stone to the next opportunity. Finally, that persistence isn't just about working hard. It's about staying true to your values, even when the road gets tough. Today, Starbucks is more than a brand. It's a symbol of resilience, vision, and purpose. But perhaps its greatest legacy lies in the people it touches. The farmers whose livelihoods have improved through fair trade practices, the employees who have access to education and healthcare, and the millions of customers who find moments of connection in a fast-paced world. Behind every cup of coffee is a story of persistence, a story that started with one man's unwavering belief in what was possible. Howard Schultz's journey is a reminder to all of us that our dreams, no matter how big or improbable, are worth pursuing. It's a testament to the power of believing in yourself, even when no one else does. And it's proof that with enough persistence, even the smallest idea can grow into something extraordinary. So, as you sip your next cup of Starbucks coffee, think about the story behind it. Think about the boy from Brooklyn who refused to let his circumstances define him. Think about the man who faced rejection after rejection but never gave up. And think about what's possible in your own life if you dare to persist. So, here's the question. What's your dream? And more importantly, what's stopping you? Remember, every great story starts with a struggle, and every successful person has faced moments of doubt. The difference is they kept going. Howard Schultz's story is proof that persistence can turn even the smallest idea into something extraordinary. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, go out there, persist, and make your dreams a reality. See you soon, glowing star.